There's a moment in every cybersecurity engineer's journey, whether early career or mid or later career, where you have to pause and ask, what kind or type of engineer am I really? Like, what type of engineer am I? Not just what tools do I use, not just what does my current title say, but how do I show up? How do I solve problems? How do I instinctively approach complexity with cybersecurity problems? I've seen this question surface over and over again in Slack conversations, in one-on-one meetings with mentees, in our Discord community, and hallway conversations, and in the quiet frustration of the entry-level engineers who are trying to get into mid-level or level up, however that might look like, or even people who are trying to break into the industry. And after half a decade of doing cybersecurity work in the field, from building out detections for SIEMs and cloud platforms and leading various incident response and threat detection initiatives at large tech companies, I've come to believe that most of us in security tend to move or exist within a few core archetypes. Now, these are not boxes that I'm trying to fit everybody in, neither are these labels. I want you to think about them as gravity wells, right? You may have blended skills, but there's usually a center of mass where you have a force that's pulling you towards a particular way of thinking, contributing, and growing as an engineer. And once you can name that, that's when your career starts to have a sort of better sense of direction beyond just tools and skills and just the grunt work of day-to-day security operational or engineering work. But before we get into that, I'm Day, and I'm a cybersecurity engineer at Amazon. With about 5 years in cybersecurity, my experience covers everything from detection engineering, cloud security, security research, incident response, threat hunting, and most recently some threat intelligence. Before Amazon, I worked at Datadog as a cloud threat detection engineer, where I researched various cloud threats and built detections for various cloud providers and SaaS applications. I've built my career and worked my way up from various SOC analyst roles, investigating everything from endpoint threats to cloud-based abuse, so I know exactly what it takes to break into this cybersecurity field. And I started just like many of you watching this video, learning from scratch, asking questions, and figuring out things one step at a time. And now I'm here to help you do the same thing. So if you want to stay up to date on the cybersecurity industry and everything technical and career related, be sure to like, subscribe for more content like this, and also check out our links in the description below for our Discord community of over 6,000 members, getting close to 7,000 now, our newsletter, and other channels. Now let's get into the different cybersecurity engineer archetypes. Now, across every security team that I've been on, I've seen 5 core archetypes show up again and again. I think these 5 core archetypes are a very good description of various sort of roles or various sort of, I'd say, gravity wells, like I said earlier on, that a lot of us security professionals fit into. And these are less about just job titles and more about an operating posture, like more about how you move through problems, what you prioritize, and what kind of work gives you energy, what kind of work just really gets you excited, and what do you thrive in as a cybersecurity professional. The first one is the guardian, right? This is one where you think of yourself as a protector, a shield. You're the one who jumps on a high severity alert before anyone else can blink. You see logs like other people look at Excel spreadsheets. You see patterns, you see stories, you see anomalies, subtle shifts, and your radar is always scanning when it comes to things from a detection perspective, right? You enjoy building detection pipelines or incident response playbooks and IR playbooks and runbooks and documentation. You know how to bring out signal from noise, and when things are chaotic, you're the one that figures out how to bring things and restore them back into order, especially in high pressure incident response scenarios, right? So your superpower is translating alerts into action, right? Turning noise into signal and bringing clarity out of chaos. Now, although you might have some pretty strong superpowers here, you do have some things that you typically find yourself having to sort of build skill-wise or sort of hold yourself accountable to, like zooming out of things, right? Not just like building rules or doing instant response. It's sometimes actually have to get down to asking yourself why something security related matters to the business in the first place. Like, why does this detection matter? Why does this response procedure or SOAR playbook matter, right? So this is a sort of tension between your superpower and your growth edge. And speaking of building skills, especially the kind that actually makes you sharper at cybersecurity, one of the most important ones is problem solving. In cybersecurity, problem solving is not optional. You have to be able to break down complex threats, understand vulnerabilities, and design security solutions that hold up against evolving attacker tactics. And now, with AI in the mix, that skill matters more than ever. That's why I'm glad that Brilliant is sponsoring during this video. Brilliant helps you to build real problem-solving skills by teaching you how to think through interactive, hands-on lessons in math, programming, AI, data science, and more. With learning anything, especially in cybersecurity, it's not just about watching a tutorial. It's about actually practicing how to approach problems the way an engineer would. And whether you're learning to code, simulating real-world systems, building formulas, or exploring how neural networks work, Brilliant gives you a daily workout for your brain. And that daily consistency is where real growth happens. You can start learning for free with the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen. If you want full access, Brilliant is giving our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription. Now, let's talk about the second archetype, because while the Guardian protects the edge, this next one is thinking about the entire foundation. The next archetype is the architect. You're the builder. You're quietly designing the walls that stop attackers before they even reach the door. You like to speak the language of identity and access management. You like things like infrastructure as code, things like network design and segmentation and cloud design, cloud architecture, service mesh, and secure by default configurations, zero trust, all of these different architectural things. And you don't want to just fix incidents. You want to make sure that they never happen again. So you think in building and designing systems that are resilient by nature, right? Your superpower is bringing a sort of legibility and understanding to complexity when it comes to architectural design for security. And you tend to usually think long-term and build for scale. Now, there are typically things that you usually have to grow in because you enjoy doing the diagram stuff and building out the architecture, but great architecture also has to account for reality of the messy real-world constraints. As an architect, you typically have these big ideas and these big picture visions, but you have to constantly remind yourself that you live in the real world and not everything's going to be as implementable as you usually think of. The third archetype is the mercenary. You like to move fast. You like to ship things and, if I may, break things, right? You like to patch holes and write scripts while others are still setting up their VS Code environment. You care more about real world effectiveness and not perfection. You like to be scrappy. You like to make things work, and your team usually relies on you when time is running out and something has to get done, right? You don't necessarily all the time care about the elegance of things, but your solutions gets results. You just get things done. That's the mercenary, right? Your superpower is like creating momentum when others are stuck, and you know how to execute quickly and make impact under pressure. Don't ask me how I know so much about this archetype. Now, there are certain things that as a mercenary, you do have to sort of learn how to adapt to, right? So you need to learn how to hand things off to other people and essentially build things in a way that it's easy to actually hand them off to other people. And also think about the fact that speed without structure turns into tech debt that no one really wants to inherit. So as much as you have this sort of impact and delivering results pretty fast, there are different things around that you definitely need to grow in when it comes to actually making sure that your results are sustainable. Now, the fourth archetype is the researcher. I love this one so much because as a researcher, you love to go deep. You love to reverse engineer malware and trace very cool and distinct attack paths. You like to test attack theories in your lab at 2 a.m. not because anyone asked you to, but more so because you have to know. You just have this thing in your head where you're like, I have to figure this out. You're the kind of person that asks why 5 times in a row, not just because you want to be difficult, but you really just want to get down to the truth. You want to get down to the very fundamental building blocks of things. You just like diving deep, and you don't just spot indicators. You uncover the root cause of things, and then you also like to document it beautifully, whether it's like blogs or research posts, right? So your superpowers are in depth. You have insight, you have research rigor, and you can go where others won't go and bring back answers for them. You really just like to go understand the things and then help people with them. Now, there are things you can also grow in, right? And as a researcher, a lot of times, basically understanding better how to package your insights for your broader team is usually a difficulty, right? Because the things you find out typically stay in your notebook and that doesn't scale. So there are definitely opportunities for researchers to grow in different ways, right? Because they have superpowers and they also have things that they need to get better at, because that's a very specific archetype. Now, the fifth archetype is the diplomat. Think of the diplomat as a bridge, right? The person who knows how to speak engineering, product, compliance, and executive and sort of different business functions. You know how to translate technical risk into something that others can act on. And you don't just point out flaws, you know how to create alignment between various teams for something to work, right? Your tools aren't just the usage of sims or writing scripts. You know how to engage people in conversations, like do stuff on whiteboards to bring different things together and actually build narratives that help to have conversations and alignment. And you also know how to help people care about security before it actually becomes a crisis, right? Your superpower is knowing how to influence without authority and knowing how to drive change by aligning people and not just fixing systems, compared to like maybe a mercenary or even an architect, right? Or a defender, right? But even as a diplomat, you do have certain things that you need to watch out for, right? You still need to figure out how to stay close to the tech, because you can't lead these security conversations if you're out of touch with the technological work itself. All right, so those are the 5 core cybersecurity engineering or just cybersecurity professional archetypes. So what if you're new? How do you figure out what archetype you are and kind of sort of align that in a direction that helps you choose the right cybersecurity career or job for you, especially when you're getting started? So if you're early in your journey, you're pivoting into security from another field, you might think like, yeah, how am I supposed to know what my archetype is if I'm still trying to figure out what a SIM even is, or what authorization and authentication and cryptography and encryption is, right? Fair question. But here's the thing, your archetype isn't based on what tools or theories or concepts you've mastered. I fundamentally and strongly believe it's based on your instincts, right? And here's how you can start to uncover it and think about it and see what aligns the most with you, right? Start with looking at your energy, not your skill set. And I don't mean your energy as in like your aura or chakra. That's not what I'm talking about by any means. I'm talking about like what energizes you. What kinds of problems do you enjoy solving? Even when you're off the clock, right? What do you lose track of time doing? The next thing I want you to do is to pay attention to your curiosity trail. What do you fall down rabbit holes about? Right? Is it about stuff like misconfigurations? Is it detection logic? Is it threat intelligence? Is it security architecture? That's your fingerprint to understand what keeps you curious. All right. The next thing is try to notice and decipher your default team role when you're in a group setting, right? Or in a group project, even outside of security. Do you naturally gravitate towards fixing things? Do you naturally gravitate towards explaining things? Do you naturally gravitate towards organizing things? Do you naturally gravitate towards building things? Those patterns show up early and in different ways, more than just how we think in like cybersecurity perspective. It could just be in your friendships, as a matter of fact. So think about that. The next thing is experimenting through exposure to what you want to do, right? So you don't have to pick an archetype, right? You don't just pick, oh, I want to be a guardian or a mercenary. No, you could try a little bit of everything. Try to build a detection. You could try to automate security workflow. You could try to dig into a threat emulation lab, maybe try some reverse engineering or malware analysis, but you will find out that your gut will tell you what sticks the most to you. And you have to really, truly understand and trust your gut in this situation. Now, I've talked about all of these things, and I know it sounds all cool and everything, but there's a framework behind it, right? These archetypes aren't just cute metaphors. They map directly to how we grow and operate in teams in large environments, all right? So we have the I-shaped engineers, right? These I-shaped engineers, right, just like the letter I, they like to go deep in one area, right? So like a guardian archetype who is a detection ninja but doesn't really engage outside of their lane, right? They can do detection very well and they're really good at it. Then you have the T-shaped engineers, right? They have depth in one skill, but they have range across other skills. So T-shaped. So think of someone who's like an architect who also understands compliance or detection and instant response. Then you have the pie-shaped engineers, right? So they have usually 2 deep specialties, and it's usually one technical and one interpersonal one. So think of like a diplomat archetype also owns instant response and also runs threat modeling sessions, so they can bring these things together for a business context that helps with alignment of teams for huge projects. Now, most of us usually started as I-shaped engineers, and that's totally okay. You need to have real depth before you can actually scale your impact. But over time, that horizontal bar starts to become crucial, especially when you're I-shaped. It's what allows you to collaborate, influence, and adapt across various domains. And in general, security is a team sport work, and threats are usually multi-layered. So we need to have knowledge about a lot of things. You hear people say things like it's a mile wide and an inch deep or something of that sort, right? So our skill sets sometimes should be that too. I'm not saying you have to have a mile wide skill set, an inch deep skill set, or something else. Just sometimes you do have to have depth in something and then breadth across multiple things. Another cool aspect of this archetype conversation is something else that's like very, very beautiful when you actually have some experience and you've spent some time doing cybersecurity work. And this is one more archetype that doesn't usually exist on a typical job description or slide deck, right? It's not something that you start out with. I don't even think I'm quite there yet, and I realize this is something that you actually grow into, and I call it the polymorph. The polymorphs don't just dabble across various domains. They know how to fluidly move between them. Like one day they could be building and tuning detections, the next they could be designing a new cloud security architecture, then they can go on to mentor a junior engineer, they could build a SOAR workflow, and the next day or the next week they're briefing executives on some new architectural design pattern. Now, they're not doing it to impress anyone, but it's because they've built over time this range on top of real depth, right? And in career frameworks, this is usually the pie-shaped engineer in their best form, right? It's like the actual like final form of this type of engineer. Now, in actual career practice, this is where you see your staff and principal level engineers, the people that you call on when there's a fire or when you're planning to do something super ambitious. They don't just get the work done, they make the whole team or the entire organization so much better. But here's the key truth. No one starts as a polymorph. From what I've learned and what I've seen, you have to grow into it step by step, month by month, year by year, even maybe into multiple decades. So how do you get there? Well, you have to begin where you are, right? First, start by identifying the archetype that feels the most natural to you. Build deep credibility and real experience and depth in that domain. Then you start to stretch. You can start to study how that area that you're good in connects to others, and then start to take on projects that intimidate you really. You can volunteer for work that's outside of your domain. You can learn to explain what you know in ways that others can use. You can pair up with people who think differently. You can build things that you've never built before. You can break things. You can share everything. Like you can just do things that challenge you beyond what you're good at. And then eventually you'll wake up and just realize that you're not just a guardian anymore, or you're not just like a researcher anymore, nor are you just easily labeled. You've become the kind of engineer that your team builds around, or teams build around them. So that's how you become a polymorph. Now, I think I'm a bit of a polymorph a little bit, but I still have a lot of time ahead of me to really get to my final form as a polymorph. So let's go back to the specific archetypes. How do you actually grow into a specific archetype? Here's a quick nudge for each archetype. If you want to become a guardian, you want to understand concepts like detection as code, things like detection engineering in general, basic stuff about logs, instant response, pipelines, how to triage alerts, log pipelines, how to tune signals, right? How to tune detection rules until there's an actual signal, working with SIMs, all those different things. Those things kind of align to the archetype of a guardian, mainly detection and response stuff and automation and things of that sort. Now, if you want to go towards the architect archetype, you want to learn more about identity and access management, infrastructure as code, architectural principles and patterns, building for security, cloud security architecture, all of these different things about building and engineering for security purposes. Now, if you want to be the mercenary kind of archetype, you want to know how to get things done fast, like learn how to write quick scripts, learn how to automate using SOAR platforms, learn how to triage things fast and accurately, how to ship working code quickly and accurately, learn how to deliver things that have high impact very quickly without breaking stuff, right? Of course, there's going to be the occasional breaking of stuff, but learn how to get things done that have good impact very quickly. Now, if you want to be a researcher, you want to go more in the direction of diving deep. Well, here's how you can do it. You can build a lab, you can read threat reports, you can learn how to emulate real attacker TTPs, learn how to dive deep into things, but also write about what you're diving deep into, because it actually helps you to uncover how much you understand it, because you're trying to disseminate what you're learning as a researcher in a way that is understandable for anyone else who's going to be reading it, even if no one asks. Try to figure out, how does this thing work this way? And how did this thing happen? Dive deep as much as possible. The next thing is the diplomat. If you want to be a diplomat or be the diplomat sort of archetype. Learn storytelling, learn how to work in cross-functional efforts, learn how to translate risk for the business, and learn how to have empathy, especially when you're dealing with multiple different kinds of people with different backgrounds, but you're also trying to align them for security goals and objectives. All right, so if you're still here, and it's a long video, so let's pause and make a little bit of personal contact. First and foremost, I want you to ask yourself, what archetype feels like home to you right now? Like which one of these archetypes challenges you, but also pulls at your curiosity? Where are you in your career when it comes to being an I-shaped engineer, and what would it take for you to become a T-shaped engineer, or even grow towards being a pi-shaped engineer? And do you see yourself moving towards becoming a polymorph? If not, how do you plan to be a strong, sort of one focused kind of archetype engineer? And if so, what's the one small step that you can take today or this week or this month to help you get closer to that goal? Because at the end of the day, the growth in your cybersecurity career isn't going to be about collecting certs or memorizing how to use specific tools. Over time, with a lot of these developments with AI, as a matter of fact, it'll be more about knowing yourself, how to apply what you know about yourself to build with purpose and become the kind of engineer that is future-proof and that your future self would want on their team. And by the way, if you made it this far, comment down below which of the archetypes was your favorite or do you relate the most to. I think the Mercenary archetype is one of my favorite because I actually relate so much to it, and I made a video about it, and check it out here on the screen. I'll see you over there. Bye-bye.